if someone's got a big following on social media, you don't want them to be posting about how Providential or whoever didn't serve you. I'm constantly aware. I'm constantly thinking about that stuff. I'm constantly thinking about our reputation and just taking care of people. I think that's what keeps me up at night the most.
Welcome to the AT Construction Podcast, and we have Isaac Wright on with us today. Welcome, Isaac.
Hey, guys.
Excited to have you on. So Isaac is second generation builder with Providential Custom Homes, and I guess we should define maybe what second generation builder is, as that title. I mean, I know you're probably not putting that on your business card, but maybe for the audience, walk through a little bit about what that entails for you.
Yeah, so my dad started in construction when he was 19 years old. He is turning 65 this year, and so he's been um, in the world of construction for quite some time. Started out in the cabinet shop, sweeping the floors, went into doing trim carpentry, started his own framing company, and did custom home framing for many years, and built some of at one time, the largest registered home in our county during the 80s. And so he really grabbed a hold of that. And, he saw the builders driving around in the pretty truck and thought, man, that's got to be an easy job. I think I'll go after that. And quickly realized it's not an easy job at all. So I just grew up around it, watching him, and grabbed a hold of it around high school, realized that I think this is what I want to do. And just haven't turned back ever since. So just second generation really means following in the footsteps of him and leading the company into bigger and better things.
So, and we could break that apart a couple different ways, but I think first and foremost, what was the epiphany or the light that came on that you're like, I want to do this? Having watched your dad and realizing, how difficult it is to be in this industry. Because from afar, it looks great, right? You get to build these amazing projects, but the reality is it's a lot more risky and complex than people realize. Any reservation you had going into construction, building, following the footsteps of your dad?
Yeah, I think, I started out in high school just helping out wherever. I mean, I was sweeping the floors, I was helping the framers, I was moving materials, and just that was just a summer job. And when I was doing all that, I realized kind of the bigger purpose behind why we do what we do. And really for us, that is, we say all the time, we don't build houses, we build homes. And you get to work with some really cool families, really cool people. And when you build with that mentality that you're building a home for someone that they're going to make memories in and grow families in, it becomes a lot more meaningful than just, um, you know, scheduling people and um, inspecting and going through the hot summer days like we're in right now, where it's hard to walk a foundation and make sure it's right before a pour, but it's necessary. And when you think through that lens of a bigger perspective, it makes it all worth it. But I just got into it doing that, and I think right around the end of high school, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for college, and so I decided to do a 2-year associates in construction management, and went to a local community college. Worked all through college. I would work all day and go to college at night, and I was still doing manual labor stuff all through then. I wasn't even in a management position, and even up until I graduated college, was in a management position, I was still in the mindset that I'm doing this because this is what the family does. I enjoyed it, but I didn't really have that ownership mentality, and didn't really picture it, with a big purpose. I couldn't really think outside of just project management and building houses and working with customers. I didn't see the whole other half of it, of working with the architects and the designers and the contracts and the estimates, and just getting into the weeds of what it takes to get a home from sales all the way through to move in. And just started listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos, and started learning more about the business. And that's when I realized, I think this is really what I want to do. And not to mention getting out of college, I had some things that I learned, but everyone knows you learn so much out in the field and just getting in the big middle of it. And my dad set me aside and he said, "Hey, if there's anything that you learn that could help advance this company, I want you to share it. I want you to like share it with me. I'm not going to be the, he says all the time, I'm not going to be the old guy that just says, nope, I know it all. We don't need to do that. We don't need to learn that. And so that gave me the freedom to just run. And so that allowed me to just start diving into more and more things. And when I dove more and more into learning, I found myself really enjoying this business and learning from people like you who have this mindset that this business is much more than just you know how many homes can we build and how much money can we make, and that's not our mindset behind it. You get to work with a lot of really neat people, and like I said earlier, we're not just building houses, we're building homes, and when you get to do that with craft and with care, it just makes it really meaningful.
So let me ask you this: what's interesting, Isaac? And maybe I know you're gonna have to speak on behalf of your dad a little bit, but one of the biggest struggles as I meet with young um, people coming into construction, into their career, especially when their parents had a company, they're coming into the organization. It's funny, it's always the opposite. All of them are like, "Hey, Brad, I'm having an issue. I have these ideas, and
Yeah.
it's just my dad doesn't want to do it, or my mom doesn't want to do it." And so, what's interesting is you've had the complete opposite, where your dad's just like, "Hey, Isaac, I want you to come to me. I want you to have the freedom." Where does that mindset come from? Where did that maybe a little bit about him, and maybe it's a company culture thing to where he's a little bit more open and adaptive to ideas and suggestions you may have.
Yeah, that's a really good question and thought process, and I think it comes from both of us being humble and having the mindset that neither of us know it all. I think that I know people like this. I know older generation and fathers that their sons have come into the company and the father has been like, "Hey, if you want to have this company, you're going to have to rebuild it the way that I built it up." And my dad's not like that. I have a brother, I have a younger sister, I have an older brother, and he's like that with all of us. He wants to help. He wants to raise up. He's not this old crotchety man that just wants to make you go earn it type of mentality. He's like, no, I've built this to pass down and to build a legacy with my family, and I don't take that lightly either. I don't take advantage of that. I don't ever want to be the type of guy that's like, oh, I don't ever use the card that this is my dad's business. I want people to meet me as me. And I'm not going to throw the card like, let's just say a contractor's not, getting a hold of me fast enough. I'm not going to be the type of guy that's like, hey, I'm going to, my dad's going to call you type of thing. And so um, we work really well together, and I think a lot of that has to come from setting aside our pride, realizing that neither of us know it all. He's allowed me to come in and bring new ideas, but I've also been open and receptive to the wisdom, knowing that he's been doing this for way longer than I have. He's gone through so many downturns, so many cycles. We went through 2008. I mean, he tells me stories. I was a kid. I wasn't in the business, but he tells me stories about, we had $10,000 in the bank and barely, I mean, he was continuing to pay the entire team the same exact salary and taking multiple pay cuts to be able to, it was just taking it down to nothing just to be able to keep the team rolling. And it's, that just kind of tells you what kind of person he is. And his partner Ty is like that too. They both do the same thing. They've been together for many years, and both of them are like that. Both of them want to raise up the next generation, and they don't have the mentality that if you're going to run this company or lead this company, that you've got to go start from scratch.
So, what does that look like? And I love the humbleness approach, right? The humility there. That's in essence goes into the core of your system, where you guys are believing in building homes, not houses, and really
Yeah.
just shines in how here you are on the podcast, right? Your dad's giving you full reign with his partner Ty. Is there complexity with the partnership? Complexity now you're coming in, right? Hungry, ambitious,
Yeah.
dynamic. How does that communication and organization either communicated or the expectations set? Just as families evolve over time.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. And I'm still not in an ownership position, and my dad and Ty still have all ownership of the company. I like to say all the time that I'm like shadow leading. I'm kind of like behind the scenes, but pushing the company to where I feel like it's going to go in the future. But obviously, screening that through, hey, this is still your company. This isn't my company. Um, Ty has been extremely upfront and open about, he's like, I don't want to be the partner that ruins a father son legacy and relationship, and he's empowered me to go and learn. He's taught me so much and taken me under his wing too. So both of them just have so much wisdom that they want to share. And I'm patient. I've gotten impatient many times and had hard conversations with my dad just up until about a year, 2 years ago that I'm like, I think I can go do this on my own. Like I don't feel like I'm growing fast enough. I don't feel like I'm moving fast enough. And every time I get to that place, I kind of take a step back and go, how long would it take me to rebuild the reputation in the company that this company has currently? And when I think about that, I'm like, I'll be a startup for 10 years to get back to where we're at now, to where, I mean, we have an incredible reputation of care, quality, craftsmanship in our market, and more and more people are getting used to, recognizing the name with that, recognizing that Providential does things right, and it would take a long time to rebuild that, and so I'm just being patient, and just kind of waiting until it's time. It's not quite time yet, but they both have the intention that that would be the next move. Is I would come into an ownership position, but we're not quite sure how that'll all play out just yet.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that because patience is so important. It's so hard, right? Even though I may be a little bit older than you, Isaac, I think I'm pretty impatient at times too.
Hmm.
We all want to run before we can walk, and um, part of it just I think that's personality. There's competitiveness. There's also I think there's potential. We know we can get. We just need the opportunity. As you look at that, I know a lot of companies. Need to spend more time. I think I'm the same. Every company, it's one thing as a business owner when you're like, okay, we're focusing on the business, like we're figuring out, the day-to-day stuff, how we're going to get through this. And then you get to a point where you're kind of graduating to the next level as a company and you're like, okay, well, we kind of have systems and processes. Now I need to focus, you know, on the business, but not the day to day, but on,
Right.
where we're going, so strategy and vision and,
Yeah.
just planning for the future. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, well, what's the exit strategy? What does the future look like? Am I going to sell this? I'm going to hand this off to my children. Um, from your side, I would imagine that conversation is probably happening more now with Ty and your father, you know, although it's not set in stone. I'd imagine those conversations are happening and figured, okay, well, now we got Isaac in here. He's pretty ambitious. What are we
Yeah.
going to do? We're going to create valuation and sell him some ownership.
Yeah. It's the conversations are definitely happening behind the scenes. I know. I mean, being you know, close to my dad and I have just been close ever since I was a little kid. I remember going around riding in the truck, walking around on job sites at 3, 4, 5 years old and just hanging out with dad. And so, we have those late night phone calls and conversations about just what's running through our brain, and that type of conversation happens a lot. And yeah, it's like I said, we're still hashing through it, but the time will come when it's ready. I just don't know when. I definitely want that. I'm the type of guy that's like, my dad told me one time, he actually said this to Ty. He said, not many people know this, but my dad made a comment to Ty. He said, hey, Isaac's a racehorse, and if we don't let him run, he's gonna leave. And so they've I don't know quite about that, but they've definitely given me room to run and given me a lot of responsibility, and I'm extremely thankful for that. So I think that's what's keeping me going and keeping me excited for what's coming in the future without you know just being an owner and leading the company that way. They've given me a lot of things to lead, I've got entire neighborhoods and cities that I'm doing every single thing that my dad and Ty do, all the project management, all the contracts, all the estimates. I'm taking homes and customers from selling, from being sold on the company, signing their client service agreement, all the way to handing them the keys. And I'm leading that entire process. And so that's given me a huge training ground to just learn all aspects of the business. And I think that's been a really good test for me and for them to see, hey, does he have what it takes to be able to do this in the future?
Now, as you look at what the company is to where it was before you came into on board, I'd imagine that you're really big on systems and organization, and especially being younger generation are a little bit more savvy than us older folks, right? As far as computers and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
How does that look like now from a project management side, the company today as opposed to maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, 5 or 10 years ago, what you would see is a lot of paper calendars, maybe some old Excel spreadsheets with some checklists and things like that. A lot more whiteboards than there are now. We still use whiteboards like crazy just because it's good to get your mind off of things. But about I think 2019, we signed up for Buildertrend, and my dad had up until that point built what's called a lateral project management spreadsheet, and it's about a 5 to 600 item list from everything from putting signage on the lot to handing keys to the homeowners of how to build a house. And it's just something that he used whenever he was out on his own, and something that he had taught the rest of the company how to use and how to adopt and how to just work through that checklist all the way through. And it was used really like a schedule, had columns for schedules and start date, end dates, and things like that. And so when I came on, I was only building like one project, and so I had a lot of time. Wanted realized like, hey, this builder trend thing is I hear some builders doing this. I think we need to have something like that. And so I took that project management spreadsheet and turned it into our calendar in our to-do list. So it took me 3 months to build it out, but I didn't start with the standard builder trend schedule. We built out our own based on that lateral project management spreadsheet, and that's still what we're building off today. So it was set as a template, and now we just revise it constantly with new processes and new things that we need to check, especially with, we went through COVID and material shortages, and appliances take a year now, windows take 16 weeks. And so those are big shifts in the schedule that we've got to plan for, and those are things that we have to be reminded of way ahead of time. And so we're constantly revising that. But that's been the biggest shift, has been using Buildertrend to keep track of schedules, daily logs. We have a weekly team meeting. We go through the daily logs on every single job, pull up the pictures, pull up the what's happening, look through them as a team, and that's been a huge help. We didn't have that 5 to 10 years ago, and so um, that's been the biggest shift we've had in technology. Other things like, me, I came in using an iPhone, and I'm like, I need a Mac because my Mac connects to my iPhone text messages and the notes and like efficiency. So anyone that gets a new computer, I'm like, order them an Apple product because everyone has an iPhone. So there's efficiencies built to Apple that can help us streamline our process that may not be as easy when you're using a PC, and that's typically what companies start out with. And we've, with so many things being receptive to Apple products, there's still things that are a little clunky. But Buildertrend is a web-based platform, and so it doesn't matter what kind of computer you have, you can pull it up on Google Chrome or whatever, and um, it works great. So they got the new Takeoff software. I can pull that up on my Mac, and it works fine. So little things like that are where we're making big shifts that we weren't doing 5 to 10 years ago.
I love that. I mean, the technology aspect, of course, Build a Trend. I'm a huge fan of, as you know. In fact, they have Build a Trend University, which is kind of cool. So even though we use Build a Trend
Yeah,
on everything, I'm sending for my team members because it's that continuing education, right? I want them to go and further their skill set. Your pre-construction process. what does that look like? Are you totally involved in design? Are you subcontracting out architecture and interior design? Kind of how does that work from a client reaching out to you, Isaac, and your company to, getting to permit and to the build?
Yeah, so if you were to come to me today and say, what does it take to get to start building a home? Our standard process and answer is it's going to take around 6 to 8 months on average to get through the pre-con process. And pre-con process to us looks like we work with subcontract plan designers and architects. So they're not in-house, but we have really good relationships with them. So we know what kind of plans we can expect. They know the details we want in the plans. That doesn't mean we have to add a bunch of red lines and make sure that there's certain things that we know our trades and our vendors are going to need out in the field. Um, that process can take longer than 6 to 8 months, but we're going to work through the plans first and get the plan up into a point where we've got a floor plan, elevations, maybe an electrical plan, and then start making selections off of that. Recently, what we've done is, excuse me, um, we've in-housed interior design, and so um, what that's done for us has been huge. It's made the designer and builder relationship extremely close. So we're super in tune with what each other are doing. I'm constantly coming in here. My dad's constantly coming in here. I'm sitting in the design room right now. Our ladies are amazing, and they're killing it. But um, we're able to see things that they're designing and go, oh, I don't know if that'll like how's that going to work in the field? We're already answering those questions in the pre-con process. We're not seeing design boards or design specifications for the first time when we get handed the project. We're able to catch things way ahead of time, but also the architect's able to incorporate the things that the designers have designed. When our architects and our plan designers get what we call our final red line set of plans, we've gone through it. We've put all additional build notes that we need on the plan. If there's any notes on the site plans or elevations or floor plans that we need that we know we're going to need on the field, they've got those notes on there. The plan designers and the architects get all the design boards, all the design specifications, any design notes that need to be on the plans are added there. And so we're trying to just get everything figured out as much as possible up front during that pre-construction process. Can that take longer than 6 to 8 months? Absolutely. We've had some that have taken a year and a half. And is that due to customer changing their mind or plan designers and architects being over busy? Absolutely. But typical process, what we see if a customer can make decisions quick and we can work together and stay on top of everyone, 6 to 8 months, we'll cover that. I know you're super big on pre-construction agreements and making sure that your costs are covered during that pre-construction because of how much work you're putting in, and that's something that we have been extremely um, disciplined about. We do not start that work until we've got a client service agreement, is what we call it, but it's a pre-construction agreement. And basically, that document says that you intend to build a home with Providential, and we're about to enter the design phase of that build. And so, um, collect that fee, work through that design process. Once we have plans, design boards, selections, everything made, we've worked with the client through that process. My dad and I will take it from there, do an estimate, and we dive into the estimate pretty hard. We're not cost plus, we are fixed price. And so what that does for us is makes us work a lot harder up front, but we have a lot less trouble during the build. We don't have these cost overruns, that the horror stories of cost plus that you hear sometimes, where the client was told a certain number. The builder may have not really done a good estimate during the pre-con phase, and he just thought, oh, we'll figure it out during the build. And then the client is hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget for something that they didn't know any better on. It was our responsibility to give them the correct information. So what we've really just taken the mindset that, hey, let's just go ahead and get it all figured out now. This is your final price. The only thing that's flexible in our contract is allowances, and those are your selections. Those are your tile, your hardware, your flooring, anything that can be selected or designed, um, like a finishing type of product, cabinets, trim. Those things are flexible because we want the client to be able to have the option to change slightly during the build. If they change their mind and we still have plenty of time, let's just say they walk into a friend's home and the friend has a super cool light fixture that they didn't think about during the design phase. We want to give them the opportunity. We're not going to tell them no. Like this is their home. So um, work through plans, work through interior design, work through the contracts, estimate, and package that all up together to make a full contract package. Customer signs off on that, hand it to the project management team, we get to building.
So it sounds like from the pre-con, I mean, you're really involved, and you mentioned, they're signing client service agreements with you from the very beginning, trying to get to a lump sum pretty quick. You have your own design center, which you're in right now. So that makes
Yep.
a little bit of sense. Especially after going through COVID, I understand now it's stabilized quite a bit, the market. How do you protect yourself? Of course, we're not getting into your financials. I don't want you to share any of that, but
Yeah.
essentially there are target lines, drywall, concrete, lumber, framing, steel.
Yeah.
How do you protect yourself from some of those line items that could go sideways that are not allowances, like maybe some of your finishes that are a little bit open to the client?
Yeah. It's a super good question. And I'll be honest, we got hit hard during 2021 and 2022. We had to eat a lot of cost that, could we have gone back to the client for and asked for more money? I think so. We had never done that to date. We did have to do it on one project, but it's the only project we've ever had to do that on. And the customer was not happy, obviously. And
Right.
we thought we had our cost covered. We thought we had it good. And we had two jobs that lumber alone came in, 80, $100,000 more. And I mean, it just tore us up. We had that across multiple projects. And so um, we had to kind of tread through those waters and work through that. And you'd think, oh well, you dummy, why don't you just go cost plus if that's what's going to happen? And for us, we keep track of our project costs through QuickBooks. But like every single thing is tracked constantly. We have an incredible controller, and she keeps all the books super super tight, super clean. And so I think what gave us the confidence to continue forward with cost plus or with fixed price is watching and learning about lumber trends. That was our biggest thing that we were open to. Um, and we were just constantly researching where do we feel like the market's heading, but we were really looking at what history told us, what our past jobs were coming in at, and keying into that and going, okay, this project is similar to the one that we're in plan design or pre-construction on. Spent X amount of dollars on lumber. The market's telling us, or we've seen lumber go up X% over the past couple months. Let's tack that on to this what we spent, fluff it up a little bit to add some buffer, some coverage, because we know we're not going to be purchasing lumber for 6 months, and hopefully we'll hit it. That has proved really well for us since coming out of that, and we've been able to almost pretty much dial in where our hard costs are coming in at on those big items, those concrete numbers, those lumber framing and things like that. We're in super close communication with all of our trades and vendors, and so we're constantly asking, hey, what's coming, and they're open with us. They're letting us know. I had a concrete guy walk in the other day and he's like, hey, you got a 5% price increase coming next month. And so I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me. I can plan for that. I can be prepped for that. And so um, we got hit pretty hard, but just keeping track of historical cost and past job costs have allowed us to feel confident in future projects and know that we're going to be pretty close. We're gonna almost hit it right on the head.
That's incredible. And from a build cycle, to put in perspective, typically what's your build duration? I know you mentioned about 8 months of pre-con. When you're building the home, what's that time frame that you're essentially taking the risk on the fixed price?
Ask that question again. Sorry, I was drinking a
Oh,
light drink.
yeah, you're good. So when you mentioned that you're about 6 to 8 months, maybe a little longer in pre-con,
Yeah.
when you actually begin construction, what's the typical duration for a build, that you're trying to guarantee that fixed price?
So on average, I'd say our builds are taking a year to a year and a half to complete.
Yeah, so they're
We'll
not
have
short.
some.
It's not
No,
short.
they're not short at all. And so on those, if you were to look at what is fixed and what is an allowance item in our build, it's a lot of the upfront things are fixed, and those are the things we're going to be ordering quick. Those are the site work is something that's going to happen pretty quick. The concrete's going to happen pretty quick. It's relative. I mean, it's going to happen a few months down the road, but it's not going to happen at the same time landscaping would, and landscaping's an allowance item. And so I'm gonna be careful not to um, put too much risk on ourselves and fix something that is, I know, a year down the road, because that is putting a lot of openness on us. And so, thankfully, a lot of your fixtures and finishes happen toward the end of the project. So, all those allowance items that someone can change and make little adjustments on are the back half of the project. A lot of our fixed price are at the front half. And that's really helped us. Obviously, we have to know that, lumber is something that could take lumber and framing is something that could take 6 months to get to. If we had a project that we spent $250,000 on just getting the pad site ready to go build a home on. And that process took 4, 5, 6 months just to even get there, to be able to get to foundation and frame stage. And so we know, if we know that's coming, maybe we add a little bit more percentage to know, to be able to stand the test of time just a little bit longer.
That's incredible. And so, how's that looking now? I understand COVID was kind of a mess when you're looking at just fluctuations all over. In the last 12 to 18 months, has it been pretty consistent with your projections, fixed price based on, when the homeowner closes and moves in?
Yeah, we've been able to hit our margins pretty well, and we're feeling really confident. Obviously, you still have things that are changing constantly, but it's definitely calmed down. We're feeling a lot better about it, and it's been going really well the past 6 to 8 months.
That's incredible. And so now, from your market, how has that expanded with your involvement in the company? Has it changed the scope of work you're working on, the style, size, complexity of homes? How has the company evolved maybe over the last few years and kind of the trajectory of where you're going?
Yeah, I think historically our business model was, um, we kind of adopted this from this is probably the only thing we've ever adopted from volume builders, but the model home type of business model, where we build a spec home that we just sit on for 2 or 3 years. And what that has allowed us to do is have clients come into a finished home that's not another client's home, and we have an on-site sales rep that is able to show them through what Providential does. That you're not walking into someone else's house. Um, just like you, work with some high-level people, not on a daily basis, but we have worked with some people that I'm like, I would not send anyone through that house. I don't want anyone to know whose house that is. And so, um, having a model home allows us to not to have that disconnection. What that also, I think, has done for us historically is people just come into the model home and they're like, I love this. Can you go build this exact same house on this lot? Or I love everything about this house except X. Can you go rebuild it? And so what we found was we were really just repeating what the model home was, or spin-offs of that. We had a model home. I think we sold, 20, 25 clients on it over the several years that we were holding it. And I don't know how many were spin-offs of that model home. And custom home building, you're like, well, we want everything to be different, but there's also this aspect that it's like, we also want to build what the client wants. And so it seemed like we kind of put ourselves in this own trap where we locked ourselves into building something that was very similar to the last home. Um, and you can even still see this on our Instagram, on our social media. You can go through and flip through some of our homes in the past year, 2 years, 6 months, and you're like, oh, that kind of feels like the last one. And it's purely because of that. So we're aware of that now, aware that that's kind of what we were accidentally doing to ourselves. That was not the intent. We were just trying to help people out, help people get a vision for what a providential home could be. But where we're shifting and when we're heading to is we want to be we the level of clientele that we want to build for and that we're slowly getting more and more into. They don't want something that looks like anything else. They want something one off. They want something that is completely different, and they might take small aspects from our model home, but overall, we had a client the other day walk in with our plan design, and they're like, "I want my house to be a U and shaped around my pool." And it's like, "All right, let's get going. Like, what does that mean?" And we just dive into that, and so that's we're getting more and more clients like that, and so I think with having our design team that's new in house and having me that's kind of forward thinking and realizing that, hey guys, I think this is what we're doing to ourselves. It's really helped us be more aware of guiding the customer, guiding the plan designer or the architect on this is their home. Like, do not like we want it to be one off. We want it to be whatever they want. And ultimately, if they still keep going back to a past home that we've built, we'll accommodate that. But that's not really what we want to do. We want to build homes that are different, homes that are completely just set apart and something we've never done before. And being aware of that is, I think, has been the biggest shift that we've had in the past several years. And that homes that you'll see coming up online and that are finishing up, they're homes that we've never even done anything like them before, the homes that are currently under construction. And so it's really exciting to see because I'm like, that's where I wanted to go with this company. And I think that's where everyone's wanted to go, but we didn't realize we were kind of caught in this trap that we set ourselves into.
It's interesting, and I know you're building there in the Dallas area, and you've done development. I mean, you have your own subdivisions that you've built. Um, are you doing your own development? I mean, from horizontals, coming in grading, or is this pre-developed land that you're purchasing and then working with clients to come in and move into?
Yeah, we've funny story. So my dad was actually several years ago, around 2007, 2008 time. He told himself, "I'm getting completely out of custom home building. I'm going purely into land development, and I'm going to hire someone to run the custom home building side." That did not pan out. He got himself into some deep trouble just with he was in the middle of a development during 2008, and you can imagine how that went. Lots just sitting, grass 5 feet tall, and just waiting, waiting, waiting. I mean, he himself was going out and sitting on the homes on the weekend, trying to get clients to come and just being patient. So I think that kind of scarred him quite a bit in land development. He did quite a few developments. It's something I would love to get back into because I know that we have that ability and have that talent, um, but not something that we currently are pushing for right now. We've done some micro developments, maybe some a 4 lot deal, buy a strip of land and build 4 homes on it, right down it. But it's not we're not doing big developments. We've really developed good relationships with local developers, and we'll kind of follow them around. And when they have a new one coming online, if we're going to be in a development, some houses are just on completely one-off lots. Those are fun. But the bread and butter right now is getting into a development. As soon as we hear about it, get a sign up, start pre-selling lots, start getting clients to into that development and start planning that. We're not super big. We're only doing about, I'd say, on average 15 to 20 houses a year. And so we're searching. We're not searching for many. We're searching for 15 to 20 quality clients, and we want to just be the best we can be for those 15 to 20. We don't have the intent to grow much bigger than that. we're not on this path to be production. We want to stay custom and care about quality and craftsmanship all the way through. And I think that staying small and keeping that kind of family oriented mindset as is going to prove well for us. Just because I've heard so many horror stories of builders who just feel like honestly, the cycle can just continue. You can build this beast that is so much to manage, and in the um, you can honestly lose the joy of just building, and really your job becomes nothing but leading tons of people, and you kind of lose touch with the actual building side of the company. And there's going to be an aspect of that. I know that you say all the time, like that I'm a businessman that happens to do construction. I'm not a construction man that happens to do business. And so I'm fully aware of that. Like you have to do the business side. You can't just do the construction side all the time. Um, but long story short, would love to do land development more, but not our primary focus right now.
Yeah, and understand I think is really key, as you mentioned. I mean, part of the business aspect is really understanding your strengths, and you want to really go at those, right? I mean, if that's the strength of your business, focus on it, double down, right? Because that's your niche. What does your marketing strategy look like? How has that evolved as well, especially with you coming in with a little youth? Social media, I'm sure, something you're all too familiar with. So what does that look like? From a lead generation, for the customers to find you.
Yeah, so one of the things that I made a big push for was we need to, get an Instagram and set that up multiple years ago, and we've have not really tried super hard to grow it. It's all been just natural. We're not. You came out with a YouTube video not too long ago. You said you pay to play, and so we have not quite done that yet, and I think we need to if we really want to get some serious growth from that. I know you're huge on Instagram and LinkedIn, and you're super disciplined about that. And I think that we can get, um, just like you, our type of clientele. You preach all the time, like your clients is on LinkedIn. They're business type people, and so they're going to be searching for that owner of the company on LinkedIn. They might not be the type of person that's on Instagram. You might attract the younger person, or maybe a realtor or something like that through Instagram, but or designers or whoever. But not always do you get um, that client, that business owner, business leader type client from Instagram. But I don't. It's hard to keep track for us. We haven't had one that we're like, hey, that's 100% came from social media. Um, but we've definitely gotten some good exposure, some good growth on social media, and it's something that I've really tried to push along and just get our product out there, get that brand awareness, get that name out there, connect with people. I've met so many people and gotten to learn so many things just from being on social media and being on Instagram. We started a YouTube channel not too long ago, and right now we're just putting we have video photography, Matterports, and um, final photos of every single house we build that one we use for documentation and just to see our product when we're done, but also we throw those videos up on YouTube. And right now we're just kind of storing them there, allowing people to watch them. Eventually, when we're currently shooting videos, about to shoot one next week that will be our first video where we've done face to face, me on the camera, walking through a home, walking through the frame, all the way through to the finished um, home. And I think we're just going to keep taking steps toward that. And if we can have more of a personal connection on social media, I think we'll get more sales from that. But for now, we're just kind of working that steady growth and just posting and getting our name out there.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting, Isaac, and you kind of comment on this. I mean, really, it's touch points, right? I mean, you think about all the different touch points. Let's say that if anyone, such yourself, and again, the followers don't really matter, right? It's loyal following, right?
Yes.
Kind of builds a brand. But essentially, to your point, even if you don't have a million followers, it doesn't really matter because how you have utilized it, you're connecting with your design community, with your architectural community, you're connecting with, suppliers and subcontractors. And so it's a network of people, and, leads come from all different um, avenues. And even more importantly for you, I know you reached out to me, you've reached out to other builders. And so you have a desire to learn more just about your field and construction knowledge. And so
Yeah.
if anything, it can be a resource for touch points. It can be a research for continuing education, networking, which is really powerful for you and I. And so there's just a lot of value, even if you're not getting maybe a phone call and say, hey, Isaac, come build my $20 million home because I saw you on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely it's a huge tool. I'm a big um, Matt Reisinger fan and just learned a ton from him at the same time that I was learning from you as well. I know he's been on the podcast a couple times and he gets in the weeds on things and he does post everything on social media, post everything on Instagram, just all behind the scenes stuff. And so get to learn on that aspect. You post a lot of just walkthroughs of finished homes and you get to see the caliber of these homes. You've got projects like Project Blow Your Mind that you're showing all the ins and outs of it and all the complexities. And we wouldn't see that if we weren't on social media. And so I'm constantly archiving and saving posts or new techniques or things on Instagram where I'm sending stuff to the team and say, hey, watch this. This is why we do this. And so it's been a huge tool in that aspect. Um, I do see a time coming where we'll have a lot more lead generation from social media, but like you said, for now, it's more than just that. It's a learning platform as well.
It's funny. And then I think and I don't even want to say one of the negatives, but one of the funny things about social media, I mean, you mentioned, hey, why aren't we doing this on our projects? And I've done that too to my team, like seeing a
Yeah.
different technique or product, that's pretty innovative. Or it could be something as like a waterproof membrane. I'm like, why aren't we using this?
Hmm.
Or maybe you have a client says, okay, Isaac, I saw that picture you posted last time. Why aren't we doing in my house? Can we do a change
Yeah.
order?
Yeah.
And I've had a few of those, but social media, there's a lot of benefit to it. What keeps you up at night? Some of the pain points, maybe you individually, as well as the company that you're kind of going through.
I take this business to heart. I take it very seriously, and there's been times that um, you get a. I think to answer it shortly, difficult clients sometimes are what keep me up at night. Um, and just trying to maintain a reputation. I'm constantly worried that, I don't want anyone I don't want to just shove someone to the side and not answer their question or not be honest with them and that lead to a bad review on Google or bad feedback to other clients, every other potential clients, neighbors, or anything like that. I care a lot about our reputation. And so um, I have clients that, although I don't like to check my email after work, you tend to do that. Clients that email you at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and they're unhappy about something, and I know it can be fixed. I know it's not a problem. I'm not super concerned about it, but it's like their reputation of us on that particular thing. If they don't know my reasoning for that, or they don't know why something is like that, or maybe they're unhappy with something. That's what has really I've had to learn that this business is the type of person that can afford these homes. Most of the time they're a pretty particular person, and rightfully so, they're investing a lot of money, and so just communicating with them constantly and making sure that they're happy and not they most of those people have a lot of ability to go and bash your company or bash your name, and you don't want that. They don't want that. But the reality of it is, with social media, especially going back to that, like if someone's got a big following on social media, you don't want them to be posting about how Providential or whoever didn't serve you. Like I'm constantly aware. I'm constantly thinking about that stuff. I'm constantly thinking about our reputation and just taking care of people. So I think that's what keeps me up at night the most. When you have the typical contractor issues or problems or little job site problems that you run into that you got to work through on a day-to-day basis. But I think it's customers that really boggle my mind and kind of take up my mind space in the evenings.
I can relate to that. I don't know. There's something
Yeah,
about, and it's not that you're trying to be a people pleaser. The reality is we want to do a good job. We want to have a good reputation. It's a tough business. And it's not that, there's always going to be people that maybe don't like you. That's fine. I can handle that. But I think it's a disappointment for a customer when you want to do a good job. You want to perform. You have a brand that you're selling and building, and you want to make sure that the customer experience lines up with that, which can be really tough. That I've talked about this on the podcast before, and we spend a lot of time as a company, is the difference between customer experience and customer service, and they're big.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah,
there's there's a big difference, and the customer
yeah,
experience, it's really hard to map out. The projects you and I are doing, these are really long relationships. There's thousands of people and products involved. They're very complicated, and so managing that customer experience, that entire um, moment that they have throughout this building process, is difficult. It's difficult to always be completely on key with them.
right. It definitely is, and I heard you say that in a podcast not too long ago, and I came in immediately to our next project management meeting, our company meeting, and was like, "Hey, customer experience is different than customer satisfaction." Kind of explained what I learned from you on that, and just the customer experience is the entire build. Customer satisfaction is in the moment. Are they satisfied with that one response or that one thing that got installed or that one particular part of the build? But customer experience is they are happy with the year and a half process. I've got a client right now I've been talking to since December of 2020, and I will finish his home in 2 weeks. And he is a very happy client. He's already singing our praises about and bringing more clients to us, and I'm so thankful. I mean, that's a huge blessing to us. So thankful for that. But maintaining that customer experience for 3 years is not an easy task. And but I think being aware of the differences and being aware of that, and if our entire team can be aware of that, I think that's really what's going to set everyone apart is knowing that there is a difference and knowing that it matters.
What do you attribute to that when you look at that customer specifically? You mentioned this has been a 3-year relationship, and of all timing since COVID 2020, when it's been really hard to
Hmm.
build. Um, what sets that client apart from others to why that was so successful?
Um, they've allowed us to build a relationship with them. They had some past experiences that were not good with past builders. And some people, especially building some of their final homes, they've built before and most of them have had some bad experiences. And so we're aware of that. It's something we ask them at the very beginning. Have you built before? How was it? Um, Knowing that has allowed us to kind of know how to serve that client and know how to respond to certain situations. This is a type of person that appreciates communication, appreciates being upfront, and just he says all the time, he's like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be picky. I just want to know. I just want to know what's going on. And so, truly he does. And so, just explaining like, hey, here's what's next. This particular person is going back to Builder Trend for just a second. We're not fully involved with our clients on Builder Trend just yet. We've we're not the entire team is not kind of ready for that. But with this client, I've allowed them and I've done that with them. So they're seeing the timeline, they're seeing the daily logs, they're seeing the photos. And he'll call me and just be like, hey, what was this? Can you just let me know? And so clear communication, but him allowing us to kind of him trusting us that we've done this. We have tons of happy clients. We know what we're doing. We have your best interests at heart, and allowing us just to run has been a huge help and a huge um, just benefit for that relationship is the trust aspect.
It's funny you say that because I wrote it down. I think my ideal client's a second time home builder as well, someone that's built a home before.
Hmm.
I think with you and I, there's a lot of confidence in our process and systems that, again, we're not the best. We're trying to make changes every day, but I am confident that if a customer would come to us, they'd have a different experience. The first time it's hard
Yeah.
because that's all they know. So you're trying to set every expectation. Um, so again, Isaac, I mean, I know you've had a busy schedule, and I appreciate you making time today for us. On a personal note, what do you do for fun?
I've got a 2-month-old daughter.
Oh, that's
So
that's really fun.
that's a ton of
I'm
fun.
surprised you're
And
still
so,
awake.
no, she's sleeping like a champ right now. We're super, super thankful and blessed. She's sleeping about 7 or 8 hours a night, which I know is not
Wow.
normal. And so I'm like, I'll keep that quiet. But
My kids took about a
hang,
year to get to that point. So
I
yeah,
don't
you're
I don't know
lucky.
what happened. I don't know why it's like that, but we're thankful for it. So hanging out with her, hanging out with my wife, try to mountain bike. We've got some local lakes around here that have quite a few trails around them. I know Texas doesn't have many mountains, but they've got some trails, and so get out with friends and go do that, staying fit. If I can fish every now and then, I'll do that and get my mind off some things, catch some fish. But yeah, really, it's just hanging out with the family and spending time with them.
Yeah, well, you can't go wrong there. Congrats on the 2-month-old. That's super fun.
Thank
Fun,
you.
lot of fun times ahead. Some stressful moments, but more fun than that. So, which is good.
Certainly.
What do you have that's upcoming and exciting?
Upcoming and exciting. Finishing that home that I've been working with that client for 3 years, and they're super excited. So am I. Just we got a lot of cool
You probably want to
projects
hurry and
coming
get
on
it.
board. I
If
do.
I interrupt you, you probably want to hurry and get it done so you can keep that relationship on the high.
I definitely do, but at the same time, we always say we're never going to sacrifice quality for speed, and that's something I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to say to them. And so, um, and they know that. So we're getting close to finishing that one up. We've got a lot of cool projects coming on board, and we're just super excited for that. And yeah,
Well, that's incredible. Well, I really appreciate making time, Isaac, and joining our audience today. So, for those listening, where can they find you?
at Providential Custom Homes on Instagram, breathlesshomes.com. Right now, we are going through a website revamp, and it will turn into providentialcustomhomes.com soon. But for now, breathlesshomes.com. And yeah, look us up. So on Instagram and on Google.
Awesome. Well, Isaac, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it.
If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them, as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes. Please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.